Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, everyone, of course, to the Tier 2 talk today. A double whammy of guest work. We've been blessed with some of the Fanbit players here. Of course, we've got arTisT and biscu, the IGL/AWP, and the coach for Fanbit. Today, a lot to talk about. The good, the bad, the ugly. I think it's safe to say, starting off with some good, then turn into some bad, and then probably the ugly at the end. So, quite nice, of course, myself and Dweg running it up once more. How are you both doing, gents?
You want to start, Tom?
Yeah, I'm very tired after coming back from my series, but yeah, doing alright. But yeah.
I'm feeling fantastic, to be honest. It's a great day in Belfast. It's great to be on the show. I'm ready to get into all the topics and talk about some Counter-Strike, guys. I love it, man. I live for it. Let's go.
Lovely, lovely. All right. First things first. Online events ending. Now there are a lot of online events to talk through. Dweg, do you want to take the helm and guide us through, and then we'll just sort of chip in where can.
Yeah, I mean Pinnacle Cup, right? We spoke about it in the last show, but we spoke about what was it, the Swiss stage rather than the playoffs because it hadn't quite started from that point onwards. And I think I was kind of surprised, to be fair. I mean, Tricked had a pretty decent run. They got themselves all the way to the semis. Skade, I mean, for them to face Vitality in the first round of the invite teams come the quarterfinals, like they just owned them, just overwhelmed completely. And then, all right, they had an easier side of the bracket against Tricked, but then even against Copenhagen Flames in the final, like they just pumped them completely. I think Copenhagen Flames won like 9 rounds or 10 rounds in the final. So yeah, back to another trophy for Skade, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, I think Skate are really a really top team there. You know, in the top 30, they're very solid in there, and they'll take maps off anyone really. And it's really funny to see that about them because they're in advanced next season.
Yeah.
That's a very good team. Like you said, they just beat Copenhagen Flames. Copenhagen Flames have, burst out onto the top echelons of Counter-Strike in the last sort of year. We had a great run at the major, and then obviously they fell off a little bit, but they're still right up there. They're beaten easily by Skate. So neither in advance, so that's gonna be hard. that's gotta be hard on them for such a team of their ability and quality. Like,
I think another team as well, Blue Jays beating Gamer Legion 2-0. Like that's quite good. Blue Jays like seem to be like hit and miss. Like they seem to like upset really good teams and then seem to be a bit up and down versus like the okay teams, like top 50 teams.
Yeah, they're the North Macedonians, aren't they?
Yeah.
They actually made a roster change. For, like Styles like left the team, and then they got in
Necrogenesis.
Necro. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see what that team's like. But as a whole, like I think Ships averaged a 1.31 rating across 18 matches played in this event. So he just had like an insane event. And other than when they lost to Kova in the first round, they dropped 1 map against ITB and then won 6 best of 3s, all being 2-0s. So fairly easy for them. So best of luck if you play them in advance then.
Yeah, let's hope not. We don't play them in advance. Like it's the one team we definitely do not want to play at all. Like we played them once in a qualifier, like a few months back. We didn't even know who was opping. Like they just switch up the op, and it just seems to be crazy CS. We don't understand what's going on.
I was.
Oh, go on, biscu.
No, go for it. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, Ryan, did you cast any of the playoffs of Pinnacle?
Yeah, I had the Skade Vitality game, and then I had the grand final as well. And yeah, the grand final was like, I don't know. For me, I always like a close game, and it's so hard to cast the one-sided ones, as I just showed on stream, right? It was a 16-4 and then a 16-6. It's like they battered through this tournament. And something to note as well for Skade, right? If we want to just talk about their run of form in general, the fact that they didn't drop a map in playoffs and they only dropped a single map during the main Swiss stage, and I do believe it was they dropped a series to Kova and then 1 map to ITB, and they scored themselves 2-0 over Vitality, 2-0 over Trick, 2-0 over Copenhagen Flames. Like, guys are looking unbelievable right now, right? And I guess the big question for us was when we had the mix, right, where it was Fiend and Skade that have now sort of come together to make the Bulgarian super team. It was like, how quick do we see the turnaround, right? And what, within 3, 4, 5 months, we're seeing some very decent results from them, and beating Vitality as well is like a big plus, right? Who just made the major today.
Yeah, I'd love to see these guys on LAN, to be fair, because I think when they were trying to qualify for the RMR at full, I think for like the core of Bubble, Dreamer, and Victor, it was like 5.5 years since their last LAN. And then even at that RMR, they mainly played best of ones. They played at V4 with a stand-in when they were Fiends. So like we actually don't see this team on LAN very much at all.
Yeah.
But now that they've brought like Bubble and Dreamer over, this could actually be a very good LAN team.
Yeah, it's hard for them to be on LAN all the time though, isn't it? Considering like we've had the pandemic, you know, no LANs have been happening, and then also like they haven't been at the top of the scene to be like invited to the big LANs up until, you know, the last year when only LANs have started to come back. So yeah, no, I'm happy to say LANs are back, but I'm looking forward to seeing all these teams that have sort of broken in now into that, you know, top 50-ish area that haven't been to these LANs before to play these top teams. Should be fun to see. Yeah, it should be good.
I think as soon as anyone's seen that like Skade drew Vitality or Vitality drew Skade, like that game was always going to go towards Skade. I don't know why, but like they are like unbelievable in Pinnacle. Like, I mean, they're just like Vitality got very unlucky to get Skade because they probably would have been. It should have been a Skade Vitality final, but like everyone's seen it, and as soon as like, okay, yep, Skade are probably going to win.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I saw the matchup, I just thought immediately, yeah, Skade are winning this, because they're just the upset team. Like in the higher end of tier 2, anytime they get like a Fnatic and an EG maybe, an ENCE, like it just seems like every time they get one of those invited teams, they just pump them over. So yeah. All right. Should we move over to ECL playoffs, Ryan?
Yes, can do. I'm gonna bring up. I tried to make the graphic, but it just wouldn't all fit on one damn page. There's so many bloody matchups. So yeah, I'll run up the ECL season 40 EU bracket, the playoff stage, right? The one we just saw Heat win.
Yeah, because that was the one that surprised me straight away. Because I think we did some predictions on the last show. We were like, yeah, Entropic's gonna like take this bracket. They're gonna be the one to go all the way to the end, and then they go out in last place. I don't know what's going on here.
I watch a lot of Entropic, and like, I don't know, I think those guys feel the game like way too much. Like they don't have too many set rounds, and like every game seems to be like a tad bit different. And then especially versus Static, I think like Overpass, Ancient, Vertigo, yeah, like I don't know, Entropic, sometimes they're hitting us on Vertigo, like, and it's a very strong map for a Static. Overpass, hit and miss for Entropic. Sometimes it's very strong for them, sometimes it's weak, and then Entropic have been picking Ancient recently. So I'm sure they were happy with the last map at being Ancient, and I'm sure they thought they could have closed the series in 2-0, but it went to what, 3 overtimes, 25-22.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Any other surprise? Like, are there many teams here in the playoffs that you guys have played or at least pracked?
We've played Bristol Krakow. We've played Heat before. We've played 1-1.
Played Entropic.
Yeah, played Entropic. There's a funny story about Entropic. Yeah. You see Entropic, Alien only ops secret, or like it feels like it.
On B.
Like on Nook, he only ops secret. So like, you see when we played against him, like as soon as he's last alive, he's either up the vent behind us, or he's in secret and he's saving. So like, it was always like, because I watch a lot of Entropic, so it's interesting when we play against those guys. But yeah, we've practiced against a good few of these teams. Like
we played Copenhagen Flames, Tom, as well.
We played them in the qualifier, I think. Yeah.
Oh, was that not a prac? I thought that was a prac.
I think it was a qualifier, yeah. But I think a big surprise is 1-1 getting to the finals, actually. Like,
yeah.
To be honest, like if you like genuinely like look at this, like the teams that qualified, I think 1-1 getting to it, because 1-1 haven't been too great recently.
Yeah.
So I think 1-1. I think you could probably you'd maybe say Sol or Heat are going to get to the finals with Entropic being number 1, but with 1-1 and versus Heat in the finals, I think it's kind of crazy. And then even at that, like 1-1 had a map advantage, and it went 3-2 to Heat.
Looks familiar.
Oh, come on, man, come on. Yeah, no, I was going to make that point though, right? Is that it was interesting to me, right, that 1-1 made that stage, and I think it's a perfect example. Like, if you want to talk about Skade and all of that, right, is like the same sort of bracket. These teams pulling up all the upsets, right? Is that 1-1 now only dropping one map to Saw, right? Beating Heat 2-0 as 16-10, 16-7 on Vertigo and Overpass. Like, the guys are actually looking really, really good up until the finals. And then it was a very disappointing game of Vertigo from them. And okay, they bounced back on Overpass, and then Ancient and Dust too. They were very close games. Overall, the series was actually really, really close between the two, and it was a good watch. But problem was that one win, after doing so much, they did the hard thing, right? They beat Heat 2-0 in the upper semis, and then being a map up, couldn't convert in the grand finals. It was, I don't know, bittersweet for them, right? Because obviously we're happy to see them go so far, but you know, that spot on the line for conference, right, is what, like 2-3 rounds away on some of these maps. It's sad to see.
I think Tom, you kind of mentioned about one win. They were a team last year that really looked like they were going to take hold of like the higher end of tier 2, like get up to a top 30 position consistently. But I don't know, the last few months and towards the back end of last year, they've been slightly inconsistent, not really having the deeper runs that we've seen from them before. Finest have obviously got that newer lineup. They're going like full, well, not full Swedish, but core Swedish now. Even the Falcons, I was sort of surprised to see this team still like hanging about, because I didn't really know what was going to happen when LDLC dropped them, that they kind of was still looking for a team, and yeah, they're doing okay. But just for Heat, the fact that they go the lower bracket run, like they went down to the lower bracket fairly early on and went all the way to the finals. So it just shows as well, like you look at the results of what happened as soon as they got signed. They went from being an okay double pony team to winning events and getting some really good qualifications. So that was a good pickup by Heat.
Yeah, well, there's a few teams that are hovering around in that sort of position that like they just need a team or like an organization to just let them play at their full capacity, and when they're able to do that, you see results, and that's what's happened.
I can't say who, maybe I can, but I won't. But Heat were going to like pick up a UK team before they picked up Double Pony. But so I'll not say anything more. But apparently they were going to pick a UK team.
Yeah.
Well, think back that period. He was looking for an org.
Yeah.
So.
All right, there we go. We got some juicy spoilers in there.
Yeah, that's straight on the Twitter after this, mate. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So are we gonna see you guys in ECL next season then? We're gonna have a look at that graphic and see you guys up in there.
Hopefully so, you know. Hopefully so. Like we barely missed out on it last time, right? We were one series away, you know, which is amazing. It's an overachievement for that season because our schedules were so bad. You know, there was very little time to get like all the playing of the matches in. We were in a lot of tournaments. We were obviously competing ESEA, and then obviously LAN at the end of the season. And on top of that, we've got two players who are in university in the middle of their exams. So the outlook for the season was we'll get through it, and you know, hopefully we can get the HLTV score up. Which we've done, but we didn't think let's get deep into playoffs. The idea was let's go aim for playoffs. We did that on the last day of the season, and then we beat some teams that we didn't think we could beat, and we found ourselves in a position where we're one series away and we just couldn't get it. So maybe there's no reason why we can't. I don't think so. I think we could do that next season, no problem, and you could see us in there, no problem.
I think that go ahead.
Tom.
I think the main thing for us is like, even if we did get it this season, I don't think we might have been just ready. I think our map pool's just a bit too underdeveloped. So like, we might have got it, but like what IDB did this season could have just happened to us. We get it, and then just kind of instantly bottom seed versus the top seed, and we have a struggle on map pool. So like although we didn't get it, we came very close. It might be like silver lining that like, okay, this season we're going to use it to focus on our map pool and make sure that like that's built up. We can play our Mirages and Infernos and Dust 2s and whatever. And then so like when we go into this season, like we have a stronger chance, and then when we actually do get it, then we actually have a very good chance of actually keeping them maintained on the spot and even reaching for playoffs. Like so.
Well, I was just going to say, Ryan, now we can probably dive into advanced playoffs and kind of get
sure.
A bit of a gauge to all the viewers at home about like how that sort of all panned out. I mean, from your perspective, guys, like I looked at Singularity and For Glory doing very well in the regular season, but come the playoffs, like Singularity went out fairly early. For Glory didn't even win a single game. So was that surprising at all, seeing those two teams do really well in the best of ones, but then come best of threes just go out?
It's not really. Do you see if you like historically like look at advanced playoffs? It seems to be like there's always like upsets everywhere. Do you know what I mean? Like look at us, like we upset teams in our advanced run. Especially for the team that finished first in the regular season, I think they have high expectations that like they haven't been struggling the entire season. They're going on the playoffs thinking, okay, we are dominating this league. So then they go up against these teams, and then all of a sudden, the team that they play, the worst seed, has prepared for them so much that they just can't. They're overconfident for the game, and they instantly just lose, and then they just slip. So and you can see that like throughout each season, that like there is like these crazy upsets that just absolutely shouldn't happen, but they do.
And what you're saying has nothing to do with how good the team is as well. So like singularity, like a singularity is like talent and ability aside. What Tom said is completely, it doesn't matter. Like that could be K23, that could be Skate next season, and they could be playing 24 or whatever many teams, 24th seed, whatever the lowest seed is, and bang, they slipped up. It can happen. It does happen, like he says, all the time.
I mean, for K23, I mean, you guys played them, right, in one of the early couple of rounds, and that was actually a very close game. Like, map 1 and map 2 was very competitive. And then for K23 as a whole, they rode the upper bracket, but my goodness, it was not easy. They had some really close games, constantly dropping maps. And to be fair, I think for you and I, Ryan, we're looking at K23 and Forza as the two. Those are the two teams right here in Advanced Playoffs that at least we look at it being like, okay, they're the dominant favorites to go deep. They're the ones that realistically have the best shot possible of winning. And then we even saw, like, for Forza, they went down to you guys in the lower bracket. They've now just qualified to the RMR. So this probably just comes into the conversation more of teams just constantly getting upset in this event.
Yeah. I think what's crazy as well, right, is, as you said, we had 2 insane lower bracket runs, one of which being you guys, right, of obviously FAMIT going all the way through to the lower round 5, Forza as well doing that. But what's interesting, actually, is, again, K23, a lot of close games. When you look at the playoffs, you would pitch them to be one of the teams making maybe even the grand final spot of Advanced, right? One of the teams that are going to run deep in the event. Obviously, maybe you're looking at your Forzas, and then from there, like, where do you look? You know, they were like a big standout. Yeah, maybe the shout there, but other than that, like, they were clear favourites, I would say, at least from a neutral POV heading into playoffs. And seeing them go out so soon, obviously FAMIT, you know, capitalized off that perfectly and made their run. But should we have seen them gone out there? I mean, there's got to be thoughts there, and especially after making the RMRs and whatnot as well, and doing so well, I think that's a big question mark, right? And even more so to the point that ESEA in general is just a haven for upsets and a haven for teams to thrive, even if they are in the worst position.
Yeah, I mean, the reason there's upsets isn't because of any unique reason. It's because the league's stacked with incredible teams.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of people seem to think that there is a lot of dross in the league, don't get me wrong, but like by the time you get to playoffs, all the fat has been trimmed, and it's just the top teams. You don't get to playoffs by accident in Advanced, and any team in that bracket deserves it, and they're very good, and they can all beat each other, which is regularly displayed. So you need to that's something a lot of people don't realize. So even when you're going through the regular season, you could go through the whole season and play, at the end of the season you realize you've played 8 of the top 12 teams, right, that have finished, or you could play like very low down, and some people do, and that's why you get these inflated scores like maybe Team Singularity got, but and maybe For Glory got, but then you see like lower teams down in the, like Falox, they sort of finished above us, but in Tropic Prague they sort of finished around us. Our score, we've gone a lot further than them because we play quite a lot of hard teams in the season. But regardless of that, when you get to playoffs, it's tough, very tough. It's every game is brutal.
Do you think the schedule plays a point of it? Because I know, like, as an example, the Pinnacle main events, like the Swissers, they play every day. But maybe some of the other events, like the Elisas, that we'll probably talk about after this, Ryan, like, the games are once a week. Where for you guys, you're playing one game every single day. I mean, does that make it very tough to prep for these teams, and more so just prac like what you want to do yourselves rather than anti-strat at all?
It's for. Go ahead, Tom. Sorry.
Well, like 100%. They see, like, for like preparation for the games, like if you know the first game, like you'll know the first game a few days before, then yeah, like that's easy. But then the game after that, the opponent gets slightly a bit better, and that's like you literally play the day after. Then you win that game, and then you go again, and the opponent gets slightly a bit better, and then you go again. Do you mean it just keeps going and going, and the players keep getting better and better? So like you get to a point where like you have to play your own game, and your own game has to be perfection. Do you know what I mean? You can't make any silly mistakes, any silly rotations, stupid comms, anything like that there. So like I think that's where it comes down to. Like when you look at the brackets, like when you go deep into the bracket, you have to be playing your own game, and you have to be very comfortable playing it, because you can't rely on preparation and like anti-stratting too much, because it doesn't play a big part of it. You don't have the time for it.
Yeah, I would say it's virtually the same thing. Like when we got into playoffs after the last day of the season, it was like bang, 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 bang. Games are thick and fast, and they're against tough teams. You maybe be a time to prepare for the first team and maybe the second team, but by like, Tom's right. It's mostly about like, what are we doing that we could do better, or what can we change, or what can we get rid of to like sort of like tighten up what it is we're doing. Do you know, stuff like that. And that's the best way to go about playoffs, because you like, it's like Tom said, there's not enough time to prepare.
Yeah. Another thing as well is, do you see like throughout playoffs, like all these teams are playing other leagues, they're playing open qualifiers, they're doing all this here.
Yep.
Like were the RMRs not like just before this playoff run? Like I think so. Like there's too many games, and like I think that happens with our roster. I'm not sure if it happens with any others, but like you see if you're playing an open qualifier and you're playing a few events and you play Overpass, for example, they all seem to blend into the same type of calls, the same type of protocols. Like they're not, you're not playing like your absolute A-star game. Do you mean? Because you like every game just feels like the same.
Yeah.
So it's hard to like take a step back and like look at each game like in a different way. Different teams play different ways, so it's sometimes you get caught in like a rut. So when games are played right after each other, you have to look out for that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, one more thing I was going to say on the topic, right, is I think a perfect example of you guys saying those tight schedules was your game against Forza was 30 minutes after they had finished their game previously against Onyx, right? And so
That's right.
I think it speaks testament to exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, that was nothing to do with us, by the way. That was something to do with they couldn't play the game the day before, and ESEA made them play 2 games in one day. We nearly had to play 2 games in one day. I can't remember why it didn't happen. But there was the way they set that season out of playoffs. It was literally every day, so you couldn't schedule the game to the next day. Like Madlands wanted to schedule the game to the next day when we played them. JL couldn't play. So we couldn't. So Rowland played and owned us. But that was so sad. But
I was gonna ask about that, biscu. Like, what was it like actually playing Rowland? Because he only filled in for that one game and didn't play any other playoff games that entire season.
I don't know, man. Like we when we heard JL couldn't play, we weren't like, yes, like, because JL's not like an incredible. I don't mean to disrespect the guy. He's obviously very good to be on the team and be playing at that level. But like it's not like you're missing their star player, or you're some very threatening player. So when Rowland comes in, we're like looking at him. He hasn't played in a while. He's been inactive. We're thinking shouldn't be too bad. And then we're totally blown out of the water. Like the guy destroyed us. It was like,
yeah, he went plus 27.
Just one. I don't think he lost the duel, the whole best of 3. And like and then not even that, the rest of them as well, bang headshots, just couldn't hit trades or anything. It was like, push banana. The banana players are dead. It's 3 versus 5. Nice one. Okay. What was the other map we even played? Tom, I can't even. Nuke. Oh god, even Nuke. Man, go outside. Just fucking spam the smokes. Dead. What? There's 2 of them down secret. We're dead. It's like Rowland was all over the place. It's I don't know. The guy played incredible. He should come back and play.
You see, another thing I would say is that, like, you see ESEA, like, what is it, 3 months, the entire league? Like, why is playoffs bam, bam, bam? Like, why is game after game after game in playoffs when, like, it's 2 games per season, regular season? I mean, give us a bit of space, give us a bit of room to, like play our best game. It doesn't make sense. I don't know.
I feel like the quality of the games goes down when they're so close together, because the teams aren't able to prepare at all, and sometimes players have to stand in because it's every day. So you'll get weird results, or you'll get like teams underperforming that shouldn't underperform, or teams might overperform. Or something like it invites a lot of uncertainty, and maybe that's why there's always so upsets in advance. But Yeah, it would be nice if there was like 2 days between the games even. I mean, that would be plenty of time to prepare for an opponent of that that caliber.
Do you want to quickly
I think
run
the
through?
next. Yeah, I was gonna say the relegations. Yeah.
Yeah, we can do real quick, and then we can obviously talk about Prem and Elisa and move on very, very quickly here. But yeah, relegation again. Really interesting watch actually throughout the whole thing. Right, is that everything was so. There was a lot of, well, I wouldn't say a lot of three mappers, but there was a lot of close matchups.
Yeah, man. We didn't even know we were in that. When we beat fours, we beat fours. We were like, yeah, this is great, but like we haven't got anything yet. We have to go beat Madlands to get relegation. So we're like, fit me. We've run the gauntlet. We've had to play some of the best teams in the whole bracket. So when we lost to them, we were all like, "Oh, very sad," but we've done well. But and then like the next, we took like 2 days off, and then Tom's in the group chat like, "By the way, we've got fucking sinners tomorrow."
Sinners or something, yeah.
Like, what do you mean we've got sinners tomorrow? What is this? And it's like, oh, we're in relegations. We're like, whoa, but what the fuck? Like we're in. Oh, okay. So we played Sinners. That was obviously like they're probably the best team in the whole thing. Oh, I mean, no, Copenhagen Flames are there, of course. Sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't see that. I forgot about that. But yeah, like they're right up there, and we're like, right, okay. Well, we did prepare for the game, but like Neofrag is just amazing. I don't know, that guy is incredible. Like he's due. If he could drag that team single handedly like up the rankings if they continue to like tighten up a little bit or whatever around him, or maybe he gets a big move because he's very good. Yeah, then there was a lot of good games. Yeah, like you're saying, Ryan, like in that bracket, like some upsets as well. Like what happened in the Amiga? Why are they so
Yeah.
why are they so poor now?
Yeah, this is a very disappointing result from them. I know that even like ECL was disappointing, but as a whole, this was a side that came grand finalist in a CIS RMR like 12 months ago. This was a team that was top 30 on HLTV consistently. IDB with the AWP, we all know that he was mental for many years and can hit the highest of highs. JO's been on that team for ages. Okay, yeah, they made some roster changes. They lost that, what is it, the Lollipop 21k bloke that was there for quite a few years, that was always sort of known as being the best Belarusian player for God knows how long. But still, I mean, the lineup's solid. You've got a lot of very good players here, and they're just dropping in the ranking hard because they're not playing many events. Like, this was the event to go, okay, like, we've had a bit of a break. We're not playing as many events as we normally do. Let's, like, bang this out and get back to ECL, and instead, just super disappointing.
Like it's a bit arrogant to say this, but when we lost to Sinners and we realized that like out of all the teams that we could have then drawn, we got an Amiga, we were delighted. We were like, oh my god, we could have had Skade, Run or Die, like Masonic have been playing brilliant. We wouldn't mind one shot because we have a bit of an edge over them. Sangal are flipping brilliant. Obviously Blinker not playing, so that was a bye. I think I'm not sure what happened there. But like out of those teams, like Namiga is one of the best draws for us because we knew how sort of poor they've become. It's almost insulting, but like when they lose their best player, any team when they lose their best player, they're gonna get a little bit worse, right? But it's been pretty dramatic, in my opinion, because they used to be very good, like really really good. Just because you lose your best player doesn't mean that everyone else becomes worse or does like loses that experience of playing against top teams and winning. So yeah, no, that was even though we thought, oh great, it was actually a hard game. We barely got through that game in the end, I think, right? They took Mirage off us like everyone else does. Oh no, they took Vertigo off us. That's right.
Yeah.
And then Nuke went back and forth. Like I can't even remember what happened.
It was
on
25, 23, and then like it was just like Ida's balance was up in here, and then
Oh,
mine
yeah.
was up in here, and it was just like 50 kills him, 50 kills me, and it
Oh,
was just
this
crazy.
balance.
Like it
I forgot about this guy, man. This guy was having a flipping brilliant series. He was
yeah, like it was
we,
crazy.
it was crazy, man. We had to play so good on Nuke just to pull that out. And like, even though we were like, yes, let's get them, it wasn't easy. It was a very hard game, and that like sort of set us off on the mindset that like we're lucky to be here. One and two, these are hard teams, even though we think, oh, like we'll beat them or whatever, and like that reminded us.
I think as well, do you see, as soon as we finished that game, like we opened up the stream for Skate and Run or Die, and then Run and Die just beat them. Like
Yeah.
they just finished that game. And I think that
Oh, yeah,
final map
that's
was
right.
+2. And we were thinking, like, what is going on? Like, how is Skate? Like, because we were like freaking out. We were thinking, oh, we're going to have to play Skate on. No.
Yeah, we were.
But then, like, it's
we
so crazy.
we couldn't believe how like hard our run was. Fours, K23, Mad Lions. Now we have to play. We played Sinners. Now we have to play Skade after if we even beat an Amiga. And we're like, flip sick. Like, can we get a break here? Can we get like fucking someone else like Masonic or like even though they're good, you know what I mean? Like, give us a chance. And then it's Run or Die, and we're like, what happened? Like, like we were like, what happened? How does that happen? Those guys are incredible. It was mad, and then we played Run or Die, and we even thought that was a hard game. Do you know what I mean? Like we didn't think, oh, thank God, it's we were sort of happy that Run or Die got through because obviously like Skater incredible, and we were really fearful for that game. But when we got Run or Die, and we were like, well, this is really weird because we know how good they are anyway because we practiced them and played them, and they like in these tournaments, and they're Tom's known them all for years, on that team. So like that was another game that we're like, that's another tough game, but those guys are really funny, you know. And that was a tough game as well. Like we had a really close vertigo. Yeah, I remember that now. They obviously
One thing that really helped our run, for like these like playoffs and relegations and in playoffs, for ESEA was like our Nuke somehow just hit magic. I don't know what happened. Like we beat K23 on Nuke, and like we on Mirage as well was like a 16-13.
Yeah.
Mirage, which is like our closest like score on Mirage. Like we really suck at Mirage. Like I'll just say it. Like, but yeah, like during the playoffs runs for both events, like our Nuke was just hitting sparks. So
yeah,
like,
no one could deal with us on Nuke for some reason. Like I don't know what it was. Like whether we just figured like it out within the team, or like you know maybe a couple of players in very specific roles had some unreal form. Like I feel like I give a bit of credit to Tom. Tom was the highest rated Nuke player on HLTV for like the last 3 months after these brackets ended, which is incredible. Like it's like there was a lot of maps played on HLTV during that period of time, and Tom was right up there. Was it the highest rated or one of?
The highest, and then Extinct as well was up there as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, that was Nuke. So like, something happened for us on Nuke, and that really allowed us to like make runs through this playoffs because all the teams we played are all happy to play Nuke.
Yeah, I think the only other surprises is probably Copenhagen Flames not even being challenged. Like they just mowed, I think Sangol and Sinners without even like having close score lines at all.
I mean, they're the clear best team in that whole bracket. I mean, they are a top team. I mean, that qualifies them for MTL or whatever it's called now. But like, they're a pro league team in my mind. That's how good those guys are.
Yeah.
And we can even go on.
Go ahead. Mad Lions though as well. Like they 2-0 Skid. Like even in their playoff run of ESEA, like they had a few 2-1s in there, but like they've just had good form. Do you know what I mean? But then dropped.
Yeah.
Like.
One thing that does tie into quite nicely, Dweg, and I think we'll have a little look, is the Elisa event, right? If you want to have a little touch on that, I'll just bring up the graphic now for everyone at home. Mad Lions scraping it. I mean, in terms of round difference, sure, they had a pretty grand time, but only going 3-2, winning 7 maps, dropping 5. Very, very close series in terms of the scorelines throughout. Wasn't as convincing as ITB, who they beat 2-0 in obviously the relegation stage of ESL Challenger League Season 40. ITB going through 3-1, so they're now in the main event of Elisa. A couple of surprising ones maybe in the 3-0 bracket, 777 looking pretty good. Enterprise Kova 3-2 as well. Nice to see that we see those guys back at it again, the Kova lads especially. This one is, I don't know, for the event itself, obviously there's bigger dogs in the main event, right? But for this one alone, I think it's actually very interesting to see the scorelines and sort of how this one shaped out. If I had to make the prediction, and I know you did as well, Dweg, it would be very hard to pin down a top 8.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what the main Swiss teams are yet, but there's not really that many teams here that I think can contend with the normal teams that come into the next stage of the tournament. The slight surprise to me was actually Keto, because obviously he's been dropped by the big team and he's gone over to the academy, and I was like, oh, okay, well, he's always been a bit more supportive and maybe he's going to help out in that regard. Mate, he just bangs. He's just putting up crazy numbers. I think he went like positive 65, 70 odd KD difference in the entire main Swiss stage. He was the highest rated player in the entire event. So yeah, Keto's coming back. He's getting some good form. Savage, I mean, I don't know what to say. Like, obviously, they lost a couple of players over to the finest team, but they're still on a 9-game losing streak. They pulled in Golden, Devil Walk, Tensky, and they just look awful. Yeah, real big eye opener of just like how poor it was. Hopefully, it's just that it's early days and that the new lineup hasn't been together for too long. But yeah, very disappointing from Savage.
You see this event? Is this the event 777? Just always own it. Is this the?
Yeah.
Is this the event? Yeah.
They're
What
the
is going
kings
on
of
with these
Elisa.
guys?
It's really
Yeah.
strange, isn't it? Really weird. Like, it's like, what's going on? I love that tournament. There's like gold dust for them. They're like, oh, I love this. So they just beat everyone. No, see, to be fair, that Treble 17, when Harry rejoined after the period of time he sort of left the roster and then rejoined, they're a good team. and when you see the teams they've had to play, like Hellslayers, I would give them every chance in the world to beat Hellslayers. They're much better. Masonic have had a good run recently, but like before that good run, I would say Treble 7 would win. Obviously, them beating Kova was pretty good. Kova, I have a lot of respect for those Kova guys. I think those guys are top. But like, yeah, no, I would have said that would have been a close game. So when you look at that stage and you see actually who they played, I'm actually not entirely surprised that they're 3-0 there. Maybe 3-1 would have been more of a good guess. But like, no, I think that was good showing from them there. Tricked as well. I mean, I wouldn't have put Tricked in as 3-0. I'll be honest. I would have put Kova up ahead of them, Into the Breach ahead of them. I mean, Anonymous, what's happened? I don't know.
Yeah. I've no idea. Like,
I haven't. Like, what has happened? Like,
they qualified to the RMR, and I casted their game against Little Mix, and they owned them. They looked unreal. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, I'm getting quite excited here. And then they lost to Tricked, Cova, and then Double O Prospect side just got owned. So they're one of the most inconsistent teams that are out there right now. They can either play really well or just bomb out, and I mean they even did that in the advanced playoffs. They went out really early there too.
yeah, they did. Yeah, we were surprised about that. Who dumped them out again? Who was it that beat them, Tom, this season?
In
can't
advanced playoffs, Anonymous.
Yeah, it was it Run or Die, or was it Masonic?
In the lower brackets,
They lost to Forza.
they played Forza and they lost
Yeah,
2-1.
but who knocked them into the lower bracket though?
It would have been
Onyx.
Onyx,
there
that's
you
right.
go.
Onyx,
Yeah, they qualified, right? Are they in MDL?
No.
No. That's right. I remember. Oh yeah, they did get knocked out, but we were all surprised that Onyx won that game. We're like, what the hell's happened there? It's like round 1 and teams are losing the team they should never lose to. So it's crazy.
Have you seen much of this Hellslayers team? With JW and Flusher?
We played them.
Yeah.
We've played them a few times. We've not only played them, we've watched a few of their games because they played.
A lot of Inferno, right?
Yeah, they've played some teams that we would have to play. They play teams we've played, or we are going to play. So we watched the demo. So we again inadvertently had watched them and stuff like that. They're I don't know. They're good with a question mark, if that makes any sense.
I don't know. Like, to see when I was like in the airport ready to fly over for iSeries, they recently played ITB, and I think it was JW on overpass. He just ran up A long every round, every single round. This guy ran up A long, regardless of what the team was doing. JW just ran up A long. Like, it was just like there's some, and on Inferno as well. They do this like weird, unique like default. Like, there's just some like strange things that this team does. Like, I don't know, like why, or like I don't understand like what's the mindset behind it. But like, I think they are quite good. I think like isn't the whole like concept of the team is like to build up the Swedish talent, and like isn't that what like Sweden kind of needs? So like I think it's a good idea. I think they are like Yeah, good.
I think it's a good idea, and I think they're actually pretty good. Like you can see, like in that Elisa thing there, the 2-1 Madlands, 2-0 Big Academy, barely lost to 777, lost to Into the Breach 2-1, and then had to play Kova. Like they've played 5 very hard teams, and they've done very well. They beat 2 of the teams that went through well. They beat Madlands. Well, Madlands didn't go through well, but they beat Big Academy, handed them their only loss. 777 who went through 3-0, they took a map off them. I mean, they're clearly good. It's just they're really weird. They play so strange. They play so strange. It's like the most strange Counter-Strike I've ever seen. It's only JW could sort of, and Flushay could fucking do that sort of shit. Do you know what I mean? So I guess that's why.
You see, for the main stage though, I literally have ITB winning the whole thing.
In the main stage?
Yeah, just the whole thing. They're just gonna win the whole thing.
Righto. There we go. Early prediction.
Yeah, Into the Breach could win it. Like, I mean, they're pretty good. Like,
they beat us.
Do you want to touch on the last event then that we've got sort of prepped here, Dweg, just to speed things up? We'll talk about ESL Prem a bit. Obviously, for those maybe watching from a European standpoint, ESL Premiership is kind of like the UK Counter-Strike event that leads into conference, right? So the winner goes to conference. Everyone gets a little bit of slice of the pie when it comes to the prize pool if you make the playoffs. It's quite a nice event to have a watch of and understand, right? And so we'll bring up the graphic here. Endpoint and ITB obviously qualifying first in their group move forward. You guys played ITB in the top 4, losing out 2-0. And then obviously Endpoint just doing Endpoint things and winning the whole event for what, the 9th time in a row now, or 8th time in a row, 9-time champs. I think the bracket has gone exactly as anticipated. I think the only thing I really want to talk to you lot about is Blackhand this season, right? A team that maybe everyone, I mean, you can sort of see them coming out of the groups. Would you have expected them to make this much of a dent in the playoffs and taking Endpoint to all 3 maps? And I think the last map was a 16-13, if I'm not mistaken. It was like a very, very close series and could have gone either way. What was your guys' view on Blackhand heading into the season and coming out?
Well, they got through sort of ahead of Heaven and Hell as an expense, right? So like everyone thought that I'm sort of correct. Am I correct in that sort of assumption?
Yes, it was ITB number 1, Blackhand number 2, Eco number 3, Royals number 4.
And Eco, of course, yeah. I mean, Eco go through, but yeah, Royals were 4th, yeah. Yeah, I think you would expect Heaven and Hell to. Oh no, they didn't come through our group. That's right. So yeah, not at their expense then. No, well, fair play to Blackhand. They were sort of upset that they didn't get their kudos, which is fair enough, to be honest. They've done very well against Endpoint. Whether or not there's an asterisk on the win, which would be Thomas had internet problems, I think, or server issues. The whole best of 3, I think he said. There was a whole problem with that. I think in the EPS group chat on Discord, where the feedback thing, Mighty Max suggested that maybe we should have more than just UK servers to avoid stuff like that in the future. So and that was in reference to that. So despite that, they won a map and they nearly won the whole series out of nowhere. So you have to give them credit regardless, because whether or not Thomas has got some internet problems, Crucial still are. Surreal, the whole team's still there, right? So they had to get past them, and they nearly did. So you have to hold your hands up. Like,
I think it speaks margins, but like, you see, if you play Endpoint and if you watch the stream back, Endpoint very much played like they respected Blackhand, which they rarely play like that in Prem. And if you've got Endpoint to respect you, you've done a very fucking good job. Do you know what I mean? Regardless of that result, like, man, you've done a very good job, because against any team, even in the finals that you've seen, Crucial runs through smokes, no scopes peoples, and then takes out his knife. And do you mean it's just all like, it's very hard to get Endpoint to respect you. Like, they will say in the interviews, they'll say, "Oh, we respect all opponents," but they don't play like that. You have to play Endpoint until they respect you, and once they respect you, then the game can get close. And the fact that they respected Blackhand, and then that game did get close, they're playing like at 100. Like, maybe they aren't playing at 100%, but like at least they're playing like as they are playing like against the top 30 team. Do you know what I mean? And for Blackhand, like I think that's crazy. Like that's such a good accomplishment. Like so, like fair play to them. Like they should have actually won the series in my eyes.
Yeah,
Because
they played well enough too.
Yep.
The quarterfinals were fairly one-sided. Both your game and the Blackhand TLR. Like it only really felt like semis, and then the grand final, which was where the games got interesting and games got fairly close. I mean, for Endpoint, they've now won 7 seasons in a row,
That's
9
it,
titles in total. Mighty Max has played every single season of the Prem. And I think Endpoint now are on like a 15-game or playoff game winning streak. And it's been like quite a little while since at least like a semi-final's been upset or a grand final's been upset by them. Against Eco, guys, do you find that they're stronger on LAN or online when you play them? Because it does seem like you actually do play Eco a fair amount in recent history.
yeah, well, we've played them a bit online recently. And I think that I-Series was the only time we've played them on LAN. On LAN, like they gave us such like both games were 16-13. They gave us such a good series. Jimmy G is like literally if someone's looking for an opera, like Jimmy G is the person that they want to be looking at because he just
won't
is
be happy
really
to hear
good.
you say that, Tom. They will be like, no,
like,
no.
I mean, they were the first to say it. Like he is absolutely really good.
No,
but, like,
I mean, you're like trying to get him poached or something off their team. Like, yeah, go
well,
get
if Jimmy G wants to get into our team, like we're all happy to have him. But yeah, like versus the quarter, like I think they just brought in Criffs. I was talking to their coach Emperor at the I-Series there, and like they weren't too prepared like for a new fifth joining the roster. All their maps, all their ideas, all their strats, they weren't ready first. Like, and they said that to us, and like they picked Inferno, and like I think we were hitting them with pace, and like they hadn't had their protocols talked about, they hadn't had their rotations talked about, so like that's why that game kind of went like one-sided. But then at LAN, when all that was decided and they've thought about it all, they've talked about it, like 16-13, 16-13.
like the Ancient as well. That's how they changed it up on us. Yeah. After like all the times previously, like we would play the same 3 maps. It's like a bit of a joke between us. Vertigo, and then Inferno, and then, but they changed it up on LAN, and to give credit to them because they've probably could have beaten us at LAN there in that game. They definitely played well enough to, but isn't that the no? I'm confusing that with the game in advanced playoffs. No, they played great. They really did. Criffs into that team, I think, is a really good move. It's sort of harsh to say that because obviously, you know, it's like, oh, but what about the player that left? Dutch is a great player too. Like he'll be back playing in advanced soon enough. But I think for the team, they needed someone like Worry, to have like a little bit more dynamic aggression. And take a little bit more of a risk, and like that's something they definitely have lacked in my opinion for a while, because they obviously haven't changed their roster in a long time now. So yeah, no, that we got them at a good time when we played them in EPS because of their roster change was fairly fresh.
Ryan, I don't think there's much else to add on Premiership unless you've got anything that you saw.
No,
we haven't talked about us losing to ITB, and I have a bone to pick because you said as expected.
Did I?
Was it? Yes, you did. I wasn't happy about that.
I apologize. So, I think I was meant to say like.
You can have your opinion. That's fine. No, but we obviously thought we were going to win that game.
Yeah.
We didn't know who was going to play that game until 5 minutes before. Like we knew Smoothie was going to play. But it was Waro. We thought it was Tadpole, and then Tadpole knew like 2 days before he wasn't playing, and then it was Waro, and then it wasn't Waro. It was Joel, and obviously Joel played really good in both maps. Like he was their top performing player, wasn't he, Tom?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Like, I mean, he played really, really amazing. Like he blew, like they were able to beat us. It looked handily, like 16-9, 16-8 or something, was it, or something like that? They or in a 2-0 fashion.
13.
16-13, yeah. Oh, that's right, yeah. I mean, that was a tough game. Like, every time we play into the Breach, they're always tough games. So, like, I think at the minute with us, it's like 1 week we can beat them and 1 week they could beat us. I think that's the way the sort of relationship between the teams is at the minute, and they beat us there, and it looks like dominant. But then a series happens and we beat them in the upper final, and they beat us in the grand final. So like it's a little bit back and forth between us at the minute. But yeah, no, that's all I wanted to say about that.
I apologise.
No,
That's fine.
I was just gonna add, like, do you think it's just on the day performance with you two then? Like, no matter how much
Yeah,
you know about them or how much they know about you, it's just on the day. Like, both
That's it.
teams can win.
that's literally it. You couldn't say it any better. I think they might disagree, of course. It's just my opinion. They might think they can beat us regularly, and that's fine. They're entitled to that opinion. They beat us recently more times than we've beat them, for example. But no, I do think that. I think that like one day we could beat them and smash them up, and then one day they could beat us and smash us up, and then one day we can have a close series, and then the day win or we win based on a couple of close rounds. I think that's what it's like right at the minute.
I think as well that like we've like in the last few weeks, like we've struggled with a player like Rowland, for example, jumping in Mad Lions and just owning us.
Yeah.
I mean, we struggle with going into games with no preparation.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That like when like we played ITB in Prem, like we didn't know the roster, we had prepared stuff, but now it has to be thrown out the window, and now we're all like jaded. We don't know what's like. Do you mean we're kind of confused? And where is he playing? Adam's now B, and like it's we definitely struggle with that, and it's something we have to look at and improve on.
Yeah.
But so like hopefully if like this is the final roster, then it all stabilizes out. There is a rivalry there, and it can maintain.
It's not to take away from it though. Like when they beat us, they deserve to win because that's the way it works. That's Counter-Strike. If you beat a team, then you deserve to win. Like you can't really get around it. It's very pure competition in that way. You might be able to chalk it up to they played better on the day or they played worse, and that's fine. You can say that, but that's not to take away from like whether or not they deserve to win or not. They definitely have deserved it.
All right,
Move on.
Then let's move on.
RMR stuff. Yeah. I think that's a good shout. Obviously, the tier 2 talk, so we'll focus on the tier 2 side of things. RMR Group A is to an end. Group B is about to start. Group A as such, I think that when we look at it, there's a bit of a disparity maybe between groups. Maybe your Group B is what we're going to focus on a little bit more in terms of the tier 2, I guess, space. There's a couple of teams in Group A maybe we can talk about with a fairly okay-ish run from a couple of sides. But I think basically tier 1 took over in Group A, and Group B, we yet to see what's going to happen, right? And I think for everyone's sake, I'm quite excited to see how this one goes. Obviously, we've got Endpoint in there, I guess, obviously, off the topic of ESL Prem. Sprout have just announced that Stare, the youngster for Sprout, isn't playing. He's actually ill, so he can't make it to the event. So they're playing with Berry, their coach, as the player now instead. Obviously, we have maybe your Spirit, if you want to put them in tier 2. I don't think it's fair to keep them in that conversation too much. Our Sinners, though, maybe Sangal, Anonymo. I think actually Group B resembles a lot like maybe our ESEA playoffs, right? In the terms that are lower down, the teams that made it through the qualifiers, actually very, very manageable. Heat in there as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting difference between the two groups. Like, you definitely have to say that the Group A is much tougher than Group B. Group B looks really soft compared to it. Like, I mean, that there's definitely a lot tougher games going on in that Group A than Group B. But it will be interesting because obviously, given that, you're going to see some teams that have never been to the major going to the major. I think, like, never mind teams, players, like a lot, like. I think, for example, Sangal, if they played the way they have been playing, they could really do some damage. They're not bad. They are not a bad team. They could get a lucky draw. They could get a team on a bad day. I mean, we all know what Copenhagen Flames are like. They're very hit and miss sometimes against teams that are slightly worse than them, or like considered worse. It could be very interesting, like, there's your obvious favourites, to go through, but I look forward to watching this group just to see if, like, Endpoint, for example, can get through. They could do it, when their whole team's playing, they can make, they can make a dent in that group, I think.
Yeah, especially with best of ones, like, anything is really possible.
Absolutely.
If I look at the best upsetting team, I think Bad News Eagles has
Yeah.
got to be
Oh,
in
yeah,
that
of course.
conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I didn't. It's so they're Blink to me. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, they are.
So I see that, and I still hard to. No, you're 100% right, man. That like
Yeah.
I would be surprised not to see them at the major from that group. To be honest, that's how good they are.
I think as well, like Entropic versus Bad News Eagles, like round 1 matchup, BO1, like
I know
Oh.
who I'm betting on. I'm
Yeah,
gonna bet on the Eagles, man. You're 100%.
Yeah.
Should we maybe go through that then and just like go through the first round matches and just kind of give some perspective on who we think can upset?
Yeah.
Who's actually going to be
Absolutely.
the teams?
Oh,
to
yeah,
win?
let me scroll down a bit. There we go. So there's the list of matchups. So G2 Anonymo, I think it's safe to say we're gonna side with G2. Just Anonymo's recent form hasn't been there. Entropic Bad News Eagles, I think basically you've already shed your light on it, and I think actually, to be honest with you, Entropic weren't Entropic that maybe we saw the end of last year as well, right? So maybe that's another point you can add to the Bad News Eagles is this actually going to be a close game? Is Bad News Eagles going to take it?
It could be, man. It depends on what map it gets down to as well, because these Bad News Eagles guys are crisp. They are they're crisp.
I'll tell you what. Sorry, I was going to say, I wouldn't be surprised to see an Ancient. Both teams do enjoy their Ancient.
Yeah, Ancient, yeah.
That's a good one. I would mind watching that. I actually can't wait to watch it, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, Entropic are great though. Like let's not get that twisted. Like,
oh yeah,
they have inconsistent results, but like they could show up and just be great that day and make us all look very silly for even thinking that Bad News Eagles could beat them. But if they're anything like their normal and consistent selves at the minute, which is unfortunate to say, then Bad News Eagles have a very real chance of beating them there, big time.
NIP endpoint, boys. I think.
Endpoint.
Oi.
We all have to say endpoint here, or
Yeah,
we're
that
like,
is
you mean
true,
we're going
that
to
is
present.
true.
It's only endpoint.
Endpoint, let's
Yeah.
go.
All right.
I mean,
Endpoint are going to top the group.
2-0 easy, or no, it's best
Yeah,
one.
no, yeah.
16-0.
I think ESEA tag's open, no?
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, this is like the first event, like with Brawlon,
Yeah,
isn't
Brawlon,
it?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's gonna be interesting. It would be very ironic if Endpoint beat them. Because...
It'd be interesting to see how Endpoint prepare for that match. Do you know what I mean? Because they are playing S tags open, you're bringing in Brawlon. Do you mean like what? Like
there's a lot of change.
what is the what is their preparation like? Like they probably like I'm guessing they can probably assume that like what positions people are playing like, but like to go and do like really detail like it's probably one of their hardest matchups because there is so much change in the roster.
Yeah, that is tough. I didn't even think about that. I wonder how. Yeah, that it is a really tough matchup. I mean, out of all of the games they could have got, just on that is actually.
But
really
Endpoint will win.
Yeah, no,
I
they
guess
are
with
going to win that game.
the book roll system as well, right? Is that when you play an IP, one of the better teams in your group, there is light at the end of the tunnel in terms of playing some of the easier teams later down the line. I think Group A, there was like a perfect example of it, right? I think OG had a pretty good example of it, right? Where they played some insane teams in the beginning, went 1-2, had a decent chance to qualify. Yeah, I think actually Endpoint and IP is a close matchup, and as well as that, it doesn't exactly mean that Endpoint are going to flop completely and go 0-3 because there is still light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to that. Heat Sinners, though, I don't know. I think a lot of people will portray it as a tough game, but I think a lot of people will see it as a lot closer than it will be. I think Heat are gonna absolutely bang them, if I'm honest with you.
Really?
Yeah, I'm definitely putting my chips on Heat here. I think this is gonna be a good matchup to watch, and I will absolutely be watching it. But I'm siding with Heat, absolutely.
The weird thing about these two teams for me is like they're both very good when they're hitting their top form, right? And they can beat really good teams, and when they play each other, it's going to be interesting because if Sinners are playing good, then they can win the game. But he do have disappointing results as well against some teams, I feel. So I do agree, though. I think he'd definitely have a slight edge there. I think they're slightly more likely to come through. I mean, maybe not slightly, maybe they're more favorites, to be honest. But yeah, no, that will be a good game. I agree. I think Heat that will not like fairly close 16-13, 16-12, something like that.
I think like just recently playing Sinners, like I think Neofrag is like like by far the most outstanding player in that entire server.
Yeah.
But like I think I think Sinners will take that game. Like I think
They could do, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Heat slightly, but to me that's a very close game, tough
It's
one
flip
to
a
have a
coin type of
favorite
thing.
for.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If Heat don't show up on the day or don't like perform, then Sinners will win because Neofrag is on fire at the minute. That's the way it will go. So, if he's able to like carry his team over the finish line because his opponents aren't playing up to their normal top quality, then they'll win. That's what'll happen. So, it's a good game. It'll be a very good game.
Players, Sangal? Or
yeah.
go on.
Well, I was just gonna say last time I remember casting players when they were online in Hungary at V4, they lost a Fiend in a best of one. So keep that in mind of what happens when some of these tier 2 teams play like very high contenders. Upsets can happen.
Absolutely.
And it was a perfect example of Forza, I think, in Group A with some of the results that they got and the draw that they were able to put themselves forward. That a lot of people say, oh, free win here for players. But I tell you what, on the day, if Sangul put up a fight, this could actually be quite a close game.
I think the fact that Sangal are even here in the first place could spell disaster for a couple of these teams, right? So,
I really like Sangal. I think they're much better than people give them credit for. I'll be like the first first guy to say that. But I don't think they're gonna stand a chance against players. But like, I think it'll be fairly one-sided, to be honest. I mean, maybe if players aren't playing well, again, that goes to that thing. But I just think they have a bit more experience. They have a bit more quality. I say bit. They have a lot more quality, a lot more pedigree. They should be able to win. They should be able to beat them fairly easily. Bigger map pool. But I do think Sangal will take some maps off people. They probably shouldn't. Over the course of this group.
Yeah, just a reminder for everyone at home, I'm just going to hover over ASG for you. Sviat, Ragin, Waterfalls, Poya, Sugar. Them against Astralis, I think, even with Astralis being Astralis, I think I'm going to speak for everyone here in saying that Astralis should be winning that one.
I mean, that would probably be the upset of all of the games, wouldn't it? If it didn't go to Astralis.
Yes. Yeah, that would be the one that hurts most.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost unforeseeable, to be honest, that Astralis should lose that game, but who knows? It's the best of one.
Yeah, absolutely. Copenhagen Flames Sprout. I'm actually really keen to see this matchup. Again, kind of sucks that Stare's out because when I first casted this Sprout side and when I first watched them, I think I had their debut actually in an event. Stare on Vertigo especially, he really surprised me. And interesting story, I actually casted him in his first season of Open before he made Inters, right? So we've come like full circle. Is that I've seen this kid playing Open and now he's obviously on.
You sort of rap him hard, yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, we talk a bit outside of this, outside of like Counter-Strike as well. So it's quite nice to see him there. Yeah, exactly. But them against Copenhagen Flames, I think we're all gonna say Copenhagen Flames should be winning, especially with that drop. But Sprout this event, I mean, I think they could definitely raise a few eyebrows.
They were okay in EPL, but I think the issue that they find is they have a lot of close games, but they don't get wins. And that's the difficult part, especially with an RMR where you're playing in a Swiss stage. Is realistically you could be so happy with taking a game to OT or taking a game to 30 rounds, but if you're not actually getting wins on the board, then it's going to be very difficult to qualify. So yeah, difficult matchup for Sprout, and even knowing that Barry, I know like he's been known as being like a very well thought out in-game leader in the Danish scene, but we're talking years ago now. This guy's been a head coach for the team for quite a while, so hopefully he can help out in some regard. But yeah,
I didn't know that Barry was standing in until you said it at the top of the show, and I was like, oh dear. Like if they could get someone in that's like that would be better. Obviously it's short notice or whatever, so like the coach plays, but it is really disappointing for them. I think is that for the whole tournament that Barry's playing?
For the RMR at least, yes.
And the major too, I think.
Yeah.
Because with the Valve ruling, you've got to put in subs before like submitting rosters, and quite a lot of lineup submitted subs. I mean, if you've even look up with the Ave guys,
they've got
like Anarkez as their sub. So there is a lot of teams that have just put random subs in just in case anything happens. And unfortunately for Sprout, they haven't done that. So
yeah, it's. I think if they had Stare, they could do damage in this group, but I think with Barry, they have very little chance.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems a bit rough, but like when you lose a good player on the roster and like your coach has to play, like I would feel terrible if I had to play in a tournament for us. I would be like, oh god, like we'd be like it'd be very hard to win any games. Do you know what I mean? It'd be like dropping guns. Oh, don't worry, I'll play USP. Don't worry about it. Boys.
To be fair to Barry, he's better than you, Kieran.
He's much better than me. That's true, but that's just my perspective as a coach. That like I would be like dreading having to play. Like so, I'm sure Barry will obviously do his best, and maybe he'll fit right back in and be like, "Fuck, I should still play."
Yeah. Best till last, I would say, this matchup in terms of how close it's going to be. That's my bold statement as well. I feel like this game, honestly, I'm torn because I think Spirit. I don't know, man. I'm a little bit more on the fence than maybe what you guys have said. Your faces speak volumes when it comes to this. I'm actually really unsure about this last matchup.
Ants will destroy them. Man.
Ants will destroy them.
You
yeah.
reckon?
Yeah.
One side. That's like one of the most one-sided games.
You
there.
think? All right.
Absolutely.
We'll
Ants
see.
will rip them to shreds. Man, Ants are incredible. Like don't get me wrong. Like Spirit, I don't know. Like let's have a look at the roster. Chopper, Dexter, Magic, Siren, Patsy. Let me see. Who have they played recently? They've played.
They haven't played in 7 weeks.
Yeah, I mean.
Maybe.
Ants are like one of the big dogs in that group.
Of course,
like,
yeah.
I would say Ants will go through there, have probably not drop them up to anyone. Like that's how good they are. Like that's how actually good that team is.
Yeah. I definitely would say, like, I would side with Ents in this matchup, but again, I think this is going to be. I feel like Spirit. I guess it's like for me personally, at least, I feel like there is a realm in which they do decent. In terms of if they haven't played any games, is all of this time just devoted to playing that open quali and then just practicing. I think it's very hard to guess how Spirit are going to play heading into this event. And I feel like if they've used their time well, then I feel like their matchups could be a lot closer than people would assume.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. I mean, like, obviously, when a long period of time goes by when you haven't seen a team and, you know, they then qualify for something and the only thing they've played for is, and that's the major, then, yeah, they could be like a weird dark horse, but all logic would say that Ants would smash them.
Yeah.
I think anyway.
I think what's interesting about Group B, though, is that, like, I don't think a lot of these teams have played against each other. Like, maybe they have, but, like, not much. Compared to, like, Group A. Like, there's a lot of Tier 1 in Group A, but, like, here, I don't know if,
Big
like,
divide, yeah.
Yeah, do you mean, like so, and if they haven't played each other too much, maybe they've played each other in practices and stuff like that, but, like, it leads to upsets. Do you know what I mean? If you don't play players, like, I mean, you don't know what this player's capable of.
That's true, like, actually.
Sangle could upset players. I mean, like, Endpoint could beat NIP. I mean, like, these games could, like, go crazy, like.
Yeah, I actually can't wait for it to start. Now that you say that, that is actually unique. When teams haven't like really played against each other, or they don't have like trauma against the team, that like they don't have like this mental block that like, oh, we lose to them or they're better. I haven't really played them and it's fresh, and they sort of played their own game, and then they realize, well, we're smashed these guys. They're not that good. It happens all the time. So it sort of happened with us when we played fours. Like we played fours and we hadn't really played them before. And they hadn't obviously played us, and maybe that was to our advantage because like we were able to just play our game and it worked, and we were able to beat them. So it can happen. Yeah. Absolutely.
And what do you guys think? Do you think Device comes back for the major?
Oh, spooky stuff.
Nah. I feel like if they do really well in this RMR without him, I think it would be
Okay.
I think it would be super unfair, and I feel like it would only be fitting for him to just run up for the current lineup to run up the major, right? Obviously,
Astralis did that though, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is obviously the registered substitute for the team.
Yeah,
so
that's what I was thinking.
Absolutely, but where else would you put him? You know, especially when we've got the big change, obviously with Brolin and ESEA. I mean, I feel like if this team does really well, it would be super unfair for them to then make the switch out and
but Device is Device.
Of course, but
it might be like, get him in the team. We paid a load of money for him. We can get him on the server. Do you know what I mean? He wants to play. He's playing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, if he wants to play and Nip paid all that money, like they'll probably put him in. I think so. I mean, if I was a Nip owner, I wouldn't give a shit if it's unfair. I'd be like, I paid a lot of money for this guy. This guy's supposed to be, leading my team, my new team to like, top success because Nip hasn't been there for a long time. So it's the major. If they qualify, he's back. He wants to play. I would put him in. That's just my point of view, and I wouldn't care if it's unfair. I'd pay that guy more money. That'll help. That'll make him better.
Yeah. I think to wrap up as well with the RMRs, just to quickly go over like the teams that did really well in Group A.
Sure.
Forza obviously making the major. Eternal Fire as well. Really surprising.
They're really good.
Saw having a super close game against Outsiders. I mean, yeah, it's heartbreak for those guys because realistically, I don't think they'll have another shot. Because they've always been a team that
Are they going to die? Is they just too old? Is that what it is?
No, it's the fact that they don't qualify to even the minors or the RMRs very often. I think back to IM Full, they couldn't even get out of the closed quals.
Yeah.
For the position to get there. So you don't get opportunities like that very often. And the fact that they got Unique and Fnatic in best of ones, I mean, that's a fairly decent draw, and then had a close game against Forza, a very close game against Outsiders. Just mentally, even though it is a veteran lineup, that's got to hurt so much. That would just, I don't even know how you'd think about being in their position. Yeah.
I mean, I think those guys are all they'll be disappointed that they were so close to the promised land of like getting to a major, right? But I don't think they'll be too dismayed. I think they'll take.
Reckon?
No, I don't actually. I think they're old enough. They'll be very mature about it. I think they'll be like, well, it's disappointing, but like, look what we can do. We nearly made it. We were this close. Some people it's very easy to take this close as really sad and depressing, but this close, you can get there next time. Keep going. That's the way to like look at it. So I think those guys would be like, right, okay, sad, but we'll go again. I think they're. I mean, we were talking about Saw at LAN, and you're a little bit down on them, but I think they're very good. I think if they could get another chance, obviously they're far and few between, like you mentioned. So obviously that factors in. But if they're under contract at Saw for a long time, then why not?
True.
Why not?
Do you think Fnatic and OG will make roster changes because they didn't make the major?
Yeah, I think so. I think
Both?
well, maybe
I
not
don't think
Fnatic because they've just brought
Ooh.
academy players in, but maybe for OG, the thing is like for Mouse, you can give them a fair amount of credit because they have only just made the roster change. Fnatic too. OG though, I think it'd have to be debated whether it happens or not.
Yeah,
You'd have to have that conversation. There's no way you could come out of the RMR here and say, right lads, let's go and like win the next event. Like you didn't even qualify to the major, and they lost to Eternal Fire without even taking a map. I know it was a close game, but
I think OG made a big mistake when they allowed the transfer. I mean, obviously, you can't really stop when a player wants to leave, right? So, like, if Alexi B wants to go and play elsewhere, then you got to facilitate that to some degree, right? Because you don't really want a guy on your team that doesn't want to be there. Trust me, no one wants that guy on the team. He doesn't want to be there. It's devastating. Like, you got to get him out. If someone's on the team that doesn't want to be there and there's contracts, it's like, get him out, because it's really detrimental to like the morale, the way you play the game. Like you don't have trust anymore because you're like, oh, this guy's not here in 2 months, or like he doesn't care if we win because he's not committed. So it's like, what the fuck? Why should I even play? So that's why they got rid of him. But like, I mean, no harm to Nexa, but like Nexa's a good player and did well previously, but if they're going to lose Alexi B, then they should probably think longer term and maybe get a new roster, or not necessarily a new roster, but like look to someone younger that hasn't been tested, or someone that doesn't have as much baggage or like as much failure that Nexa carries as well. I mean, like it's hard to say that because he's obviously done well and gets paid a lot of money to play at the top scene, but like when you're there a long time and you've been this close a lot of times and you haven't won that much when you've had really good players and a lot of backing, and then you take a step down, it's like, because the OG is a step down for Nexa, like that's a clear step down in the packing order for him. So it's a little bit disappointing for OG to like let one of their jewels go and get such a poor item in return. I would have just, if I was OG running, I would have just asked for straight money. I wouldn't have wanted a swap. I would have tried to source another player, because Nex is not like a long-term type of player to bring in. Like getting Flames, that's a long-term player. That's thinking about the future. Getting a guy like that on a big contract is smart because he's quality, and you can build rosters around quality young players. It's good to sprinkle in a bit of experience, but yeah, no, they need to make roster changes big time. Surgery.
I think the only other result, slightly disappointing for Dig, that they only got one win. I mean, this is a team that before COVID, they were kind of built for LAN. And while you don't quite have all the veterans, to only get one win here, this is your perfect opportunity to show what you've got. Gamer Legion, I think they would have taken this event as just experience gathering. We know that they're a very young squad. So 0-3, they had some close games. They can be happy with what they can learn and try and come back next time.
I watch a lot of Game Religion. Like, I'm a big fan of them. I really like the way they play and call and stuff. So I'm surprised that they actually went like 0-3, because I feel like they could have took I feel like they could have took a few series, to be honest. But
I think they're a little bit better than 0-3.
Yeah, I feel like it doesn't do justice.
Speaking of not being done justice, Insomnia 68 people. Let's have a bit of a chat about that. I was fortunate to be sitting in the in Dominican Republic for the first day. Came home, opened up Twitter, and I heard it was a delightful event. And that's why
it was one of the smoothest events I've ever been a part of. Pleasure.
Okay, we'll get the bad and the ugly out of the way first and foremost. Servers, good God. I mean, I didn't have to play on them, but I think from Matthew's video, the beginning, right, where it was like Eden Part 3, was, another UK player, he was on like 40 VAR on the server. It was like a clown fiasco, huge delays, and it just didn't sound too good. Administration perspective as well, I did have a chuckle that some people believe that you could draw in a Swiss stage. I did find that quite funny. But it seemed to be, once all of that was out of the way, the event itself wasn't too bad in terms of, obviously, you guys get to play the decent sides. ITB were there, which is something we didn't really have access to at the Epic LAN. Obviously, as well, with Smooya coming in, there was always going to be that little bit more of a fight. And obviously, you guys making the final as well. What did you guys make of Insomnia as a whole?
You want to go for it, Tom?
No, you go first. You set the tone, because I'm really bad with the tone.
Okay, well, maybe we'll go good cop, bad cop here. Then I'll
good
go
cop,
first.
bad cop.
Good cop, bad cop. Well, like, day one was, I think they recently changed hands in the ownership, I was told. So, like, that's why...
I heard about that as well. Like, before... It was after the last event and before this one, there was the change.
Yeah, so, like, there's been, like, a big period... And also, the pandemic has happened as well. So, like, there's been a big, like, long gap between the last events. So, like, it seems to me that, like, they lost a lot of knowledge or experience from the team that previously run it. And that's really adversely affected the Counter-Strike side of things. Because, obviously, the Valorant tournament I heard was run online, which is incredible. I think it's because I don't know. That's
I don't think you can run LAN servers
for
on
Riot.
Val.
I mean, what's the point of even showing up then if it's going to be online? In my opinion, you get to see your mates and you get to see them, but it's online. Like, the whole point of playing online for me is how quick it is, right? So, but anyway, that's another point. So that ran well. So Counter-Strike had a problem with some server. They didn't. They were supposed to have 2 servers. They only had one. One didn't arrive. And then they didn't even bother testing it before the event. They turn it on, it doesn't work. Oh my god! It's like, maybe we should have tested it. And then, so that's what delayed day one. But then when they got that fixed, it was somewhat fine, to be honest. The event then ran well. I mean, for me, it was a bit disappointing that they didn't come out with any sort of apology or any even explanation for, like, I mean, like, the only reasons that people heard stuff was because it was leaking like a sieve. It wasn't because, like, they came out with any official apology or explanation for what's going on. It was really poor.
Do you think that that's what the teams would want to hear? Like, some sort of statement or just anything, and that might give everyone's perspective a little bit better? Or
I mean, I think if the guys that run Insomnia came out and said something like, I mean, this is a bit far-fetched, but, like, if they came out and went, yeah, well,
it's a bit unfortunate that like the tournament ran so poorly and so many people's eyes, you know, will try to employ more people or like have more rigorous setup and testing and all this sorts of stuff. Maybe more experience in the admin stuff. Then that would be good. But I also think people overreacted a little bit, to be honest. Like LAN is LAN. Things are gonna break. Things are gonna be delays. Like it's gonna happen. Like I mean, that's LAN. That's what happens. I mean, even Epic LAN has it. So I mean, not to that extent. So I don't think as well that the admins deserved some of the abuse they got. Like they got dogs abuse.
true.
Like
Yeah.
they got like proper
agreed.
abuse.
Yeah.
They
That
got
was
like
horrific.
it was really weird. I mean, I wouldn't be against Insomnia like telling people, you know, that they can't come back because of it. I think they have to some people because it was.
You'd imagine so.
Yeah, a couple of people did get barred.
Of course, the admins are somewhat complicit in obviously the incompetence of the event because they're involved, but they don't make the decision to like hire not as many admins or not test the servers or all this sort of stuff. Like that's above their head, right? So, you have to give them a lot of sympathy for that. And to be honest, see after day one, the event was fine.
Yeah, Tom, you want to get
Bad cop.
Well, like one thing I would say about like the communication between the admins and the players, yeah, is that the players could, or like admins could have says nominate one person from each team. We're going to put you in a Discord. We're going to be like, this is what we're going to like. This is how we're going to communicate. So it's not 27 teams and 6 players, 5 players in each team, all in that Discord just
Rambling.
typing abuse. Do you mean it was like?
Yeah.
They're inviting it. Do you know what I mean? Like we showed up on the Friday at like 9:30, 8:30. Okay, we didn't get playing until what 6:30, 7:30.
Oh, I think the first game was like 2 or 3 o'clock. Yeah,
Then there was another delay then. So like there is that. So they could have just handled the communication just better between the players and the admin. Like that's one thing. Like they invited it to happen, but with everyone just causing chaos and everyone trying to be funny between their mates and all that type of stuff. The format, we went 5-0 in the Swiss stage. So a team drew. Like I don't know. Like they could have just done groups. They could have like
groups. Yeah.
Round robin.
The fact that like that's happened, just shows that like they just didn't look. Oh, okay, we can't do that format. We have to go this format. Do you mean they didn't think about that? Do you mean so like then like if that's happening day one, then like it's just gonna lead. It's just gonna lead to problems after problems. Like and it's like I think like if that's how you're setting your tempo or that's how you're setting the mood, like day one for the event, like and at least for me, I'm talking about for our team anyway. Like after day one, like we just wanted to go home. Do you mean like it wasn't
true?
It just really set like it just really set like how the LAN was going to plan out. Like although it did fix after day one, there was a few delays on the Saturday morning. But like if that very first day everyone's excited, everyone's there setting up their PCs,
everyone's
and then we see
like, sort of spoiled the event.
It spoiled it for sure.
Yeah, it was really sad.
Just a few other things is like the prize pool distribution between is just like even across like the Valorant, the Overwatch, the other games, like it just didn't make any sense. Like it just feels like there's not a lot of thought behind what happened. Do you mean or like what's in place?
I was gonna say there was a tweet from Square, right, who is the owner of Temperate, and it was like stating the prize pool rundown. So 21 teams competed in Valorant. First place got £1,500. 27 teams competed in Counter-Strike. First place got £1,750. 9 teams competed in Overwatch, and first place got £1,875. So the money there. Yeah, and not to mention, right, CS had Overwatch beat 3 times the prize pool, and I think the prize pool actually went back by like 3 times the amount as well, right? I think it was like a good 5-6 grand for first place last LAN, and this one is just shy of 2K. It's like
it's slightly different though, because obviously the last LAN, the max prize pool was a lot bigger, so they need to keep that in mind first. But I think just the distribution, it's not even the fact that it's 1750 for first, it's the fact that it's 5 grand going down to 1750 for first, second, which you guys got at 1400. You're playing a best of 5 on stage for 350 quid. Like it realistically, it should be somewhere in the portion of 2,500 to 3 grand for first, and then second, third, and fourth being a lot lower because it gives more incentive of what it means to win the event rather than what it means to come second, third, or fourth.
It's really disappointing because when we were thinking about the final, it wasn't even HLTV. We're like, we're really just going up here for pride, and like that's all this is. Like we're virtually getting the same amount of money. Like the only difference between winning is like we beat them. Do you know what I mean? But they got us obviously, so fair play. But that's all it was. It's a silver lining for us obviously because we lost, so it doesn't count on HLTV. But it was like we were annoyed. Like we would have, like what have we come this whole way for? Like Epic Land has HLTV. Like this is an expensive ticket.
Yeah.
This cost a lot of money for us to go over. We wouldn't have been able to go over if it wasn't for some divine intervention, and Alistair McNoob sends us some money to send us over, which is where we're amazed and thankful for. We wouldn't have been able to do that otherwise, and for what?
I think like to see if we were still with UMX, yeah. The guy that owns UMX is from Switzerland, right? There was no streams the entire event besides the final. So if a guy in Switzerland has sent an entire team over, paid for everything, and can't even watch the team until they're in the final, if they make it to the final, then like what's that doing for the organization? Do you know what I mean? Like where's their like exposure? Where's their like Twitter impressions, doing all that there stuff? Like where's all that? Like they're not like what we can do now, like as a scene, is we can come back to like Insomnia, like buff like the right response. I mean, it's not on Twitter. It's not going to be on Twitter. It's not. We're not going to be groups of people saying all this stuff because it's not going to get anything. We can make complaints. We can give them like formal like ways to improve the event, like LVN, like shout out to him. He type a like massive
essayed it,
Like I mean, like that's what we need to improve the events. Like because obviously we want Insomnia to continue. This is our first one. We've had a bad experience with it. But like if they come to if they release a statement, say here we're sorry, these are the problems, these are how they're going to get fixed. Next size series it's going to get better, and we're going to knock off a few pound off the ticket because this thing was so poorly run or something like that. Then that's fair enough. Do you know what I mean? But like as players, like we need to like help these guys. Do you know what I mean? Like it's on us as well as it is on them. So like we have to come together. Like
need to go away because we don't have that many lands anyway. So whilst it's disappointing that one of the bigger lands, or like one of the biggest lands in the country has been so poor, we don't want to slate them so much that like they're like, well, fuck this, we're not going to do another Counter-Strike tournament. We need them, unfortunately. If they're gonna, I would prefer a situation where there's plenty of lands and only the best ones stay around because they're run great and people want to play them and the tickets are cheap or whatever, right? Unfortunately, we've only got really 2 regular ones, and we have to help improve them, otherwise there'll be nothing.
Even for me, like I'll tell the viewers, I came up on the Saturday to go and watch a whole day at Birmingham, and then I went back on Sunday to London with some friends, and in the evening we wanted to get an eye on what the games were because we're all CS fans. And I remember I was messaging you, Kieran, and I was messaging Emp as well, just like getting an update. Oh, what's the map? What's the scoreline?
Yeah, what's going on?
To think that I've got to sit there and message coaches of the actual teams to find out what the score of the game is, I mean, it's ridiculous. So I think the best thing that we can hope for iSeries is that they learn from some of their mistakes. It's all out in the open about what can be improved on, and come the next one, the teams, you know, are not going to boycott, and that we get as many teams possible, we get a better looking prize pool, and we get a better run event, and then everyone can forget about I-68 and go, wow, how great was I-69, how great was that last event? That's what we need.
Well, unfortunately, you said boycott, and I feel like it might be very real for quite a few teams. And that's really disappointing because the quality of the next land could go right down. Like you could get like maybe one team from Advanced show up, if that even. If it's like, because it has been that poor, by the way. Like all the dogs abuse aside, and it has been like very poor. Like compared just to Epic Clan. Like an Epic Clan have a lot of volunteers that run it, which is to their credit. It paled in significance. Like Epic Clan ran so much smoother. Like it was more enjoyable. So it's disappointing, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully it's better, because I do think a lot of teams will boycott unless Insomnia like come out and say something, or I mean, they'll never do this, but even if they offered a partial refund, I'm sure a lot of people would feel a lot less bitter. To specifically the people that were playing in the affected by the Counter-Strike delays, because obviously the other stuff ran fairly smoothly as far as I'm aware. So I don't know how they would do that, or whether they would even willing to do that. But I know that would do a lot for like stopping potential boycotts, which I'm sure they're not really concerned about. They make enough money from everything else, so maybe it's not wise for anyone to consider boycotting it, because it might go away then if the tournament continues to shrink, which we don't want.
Oh shoot, sorry. Yes. No, all good. I was gonna say one more thing, bringing up I was gonna try and bring up the Liquipedia, but I've clicked the wrong thing. Is the whole like coverage of the event in general. Obviously, we talked about the no HLTV, and we talked about the fact that there was only the stream for the grand final. I think Tom Fatal, one of the admins for Epic Land, but more importantly, you know, in general, just sort of like the Liquipedia UK CS guy. I just wanted to give props to him personally. I think that if it wasn't for him, at least, like as Dweg said, like we would be so lost on what happened during that event, in terms of no Liquipedia coverage. If that didn't exist, like we didn't have HLTV, we didn't have like we actually, this event, nobody in the Europe region would have known this existed. There was no coverage on Twitter from Insomnia themselves. There's no like updates. It was just so dull. It was so like, I remember even subscribing, like I didn't even want to get a notification from the Discord after day one. I was just sort of like, this is like, I feel bad for the teams. Like, you know, I definitely didn't want to get involved with anything, but I was just praying to the Lords that they would put something in like the CSGO announcements being like, oh yeah, like this is the results, this is the update. And even then, like I was trying to have a look, there was no like clear updates to the brackets. You know, it was like, I think they used some external bracket website to have it all stored, and even then they ditched that halfway through to use an Excel spreadsheet. So during day one of groups, when I was actually wanting to watch the Counter-Strike, I didn't know what was going on. I just checked Steam. Oh yeah, look, these guys just finished, they won that game. Like come on.
The most crazy thing that happened was towards the end of day one, Tom, with the groups, where the last round hadn't been played. So our last game would have been ITB, but it was so late in the evening because of the days, the delays in the day. They just decided to forfeit the game because seed 1 and 2 made no difference, right? And they didn't. They wanted to go home. So we both got to go early, right? But everyone else had to wait before the last round was drawn, because it was weighted. It wasn't just pure Swiss where 3-0 plays 3-0, blah blah blah. It was these two teams couldn't play each other because they've played harder teams. So, and it took so long just to get the matchups out. And then when they got the matchups out, everyone was like, these matchups are not right. They're entirely wrong, right? And then it took them a long time to get that right. And at some point they said, we'll play them tomorrow, because it was so late. It was like 12, half 12.
Yeah.
And as soon as they said that, that's when they killed any chance of like that getting finished tonight, because what ended up happening is several teams worth of players, and maybe not entire teams, but like, you know, players got out and just went home. Just went like, right, well, let's go. And then very shortly after that, they were like, well, let's put it to a vote. And then actually the vote doesn't matter. We're playing it now. It was crazy. It was crazy. It was like, we were like, thank God we didn't lose a game and like have to play the 4th round, and so that we got that default win and went through, because flip me. So we're a little bit like unscathed by the event in that regard, because that was the big point. Like day one delays, and then what happened at the end was crazy. I just thought I should say so, because there might be people watching like going, oh, why aren't they talking about the most crazy thing that happened, which was that. And that's where most teams got affected, like Blackhand, for example, TLR, and all these teams.
Yeah, I think another thing as well that like didn't affect us, but I think it affected other teams. I think like Fraser or like Blackhand, I think they played on online servers at one point.
That's another thing, yeah.
But
so
we didn't have to get in, we weren't affected by that, but like I'm pretty sure other teams, TLR and Blackhand, they had to play on online servers.
Yeah, we only found out about that like sort of towards the end of the LAN, by the way, because like for some reason they give us an ITB, maybe even I don't think Echo had to play on online servers, so like the advanced teams or like
Just
the
the
top
top teams.
the
Yeah.
top teams were given preference to the servers that were working when they got them working, so that like we wouldn't like kick up a big fuss or something. Which to be fair, they did that quite. They were quite smart with that because everyone else got punished. Everyone else had mad delays. Like online servers come to LAN, play on online server, playing Counter-Strike. There's
Yeah.
history here. Do you know what I mean? This is disgraceful. Like, I mean, if I was on one of those teams, I would be like, I've paid 120 quid for this to come to LAN to play online servers. What? This is crazy.
Yeah.
I would be incensed. I would be demanding my full price ticket refunded.
One...
That's. Go ahead.
No, sorry, I was going to say one more thing building on the whole like server point. I'm not sure if you heard, but in the intermediate finals, I think there was a game going on in the upper bracket. It might have been a Blackhand game if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to double check, but anyway, it might have been ICP Blackhand or something like that, where they wanted to play Vertigo next, right? And so they wanted to play Vertigo as the map. Obviously using online servers, there was no like in-game function like Epic LAN where you can all call a vote and change the map to Vertigo.
Yes.
The admin had to change the map to Vertigo, but selected the wrong server, so the intermediate finals got cut short because the admin had changed the server of the intermediate finals to Vertigo and not Inferno. I think they were like 12-3 up at the half. There was like a 25-minute delay because the admins didn't know how to restore the server to the half time of 12-3. When they finally did, the team that was 12-3 ahead lost that game because they just spent so long waiting. I think it was like so ridiculous like that. It was like, oh man, I feel so bad. But yeah, I think that's like that's the last I want to say of it. I thought that was like really comedic, but actually has like serious undertone that like that sums up the whole event, right? Is that you're 12-3 up, your server gets changed because they like fat finger the wrong server or whatever, and then that's it, you lose the Inters finals, which I'm not mistaken was the European team, right? Well, they were UK core, but yeah, that team, they were in the Inters finals, they won it, but they gave the tickets to the team that came in second place, and you can only wonder why. So yeah.
Very generous of them.
Yeah. No, we insist you take these tickets.
No,
yeah.
you have them. You deserve them.
Yeah. All good on that then? Any final comments made, or you want to rip in a little
I'd
more?
just say shout out to Index that's running the UK CSGG website. He was the only one doing coverage of the event, literally, and he's playing in the event. He's literally playing in a team, and he's the only one giving coverage.
He's doing it all.
So the fact that he was taking, I think, pictures and videos of the teams, he's putting out articles, he's doing all of that, and he's literally playing in the event. I mean, fair play.
Yeah, big shout out to Harry. Love him. Big love.
I love Harry. He's such a nice guy. I remember last Epic as well. We bought like a Ross Kemp bowl cake, didn't he, to LAN?
That's right.
So he's a very nice guy. Very, very nice guy. Last topic, gents. Topic 4. Roster changes. Dweg, this is like your home. Every time.
Go on then, we'll quickly go over this.
Every time we're here, you love a chat about the roster changes. So I'll let you and the lads take over this one.
Yeah, so I think what we'll do here, guys, is I'll just go through all of them, and then maybe you can just give some like vibes of what you think of them. The Monkey team, the Polish guys with like Kai and Narot, they just disbanded after coming together and like trying to make a new powerhouse. So disappointing there. Mertz and Kyobi coming back to CS. We're actually seeing a lot of players returning from Valorant over to CS. Singularity parted ways with their CS lineup. That's like C's and Clax. We kind of talked about them in Advanced. Cabby and Notan joining Masonic on a permanent basis rather than on trial and on loan. Wolfie on Ecstatic taking a break, and Zello, the Romanian AWPer, is standing in for them. The Estonian team SSC added Letny as a coach, and then Mad Lions dropped their roster. So a few of these teams we've seen in Advanced playoffs.
That's interesting that Letny is coaching SC. We play those guys somewhat frequently, and always they're like the Mirage gods. Those guys could beat anyone on Mirage, I'm convinced of anyway. So like that should be interesting to see them have. I didn't know that about Ecstatic though.
I think that's a good change. If he's taking a break, whatever. But like Zello,
Zello's unreal.
He should have been in a better team like 2 years ago. Like he's wasted time here staying in Nexus. Like he's
Yeah.
so good. He's
He's
so
very
good.
good.
But he's wasting his like opportunities.
They'll go
But
up a
hopefully,
level with him.
yeah.
They'll go up a level with that guy on the roster.
When I spoke to Regali, he was always saying like the Romanian scene is just so tight and no one wants to leave. That's the problem. That's why even I think ERA said that they asked him like 4 times from Gamer Legion for him to join, and it was only on like the 4th time that he joined, because I don't know what it is, but those guys that are on Nexus just seem to never want to leave. And we've always seen that like Zello's been really good. I think he's been slightly in poorer form the last 12 months than previous years, but if he can actually get on a decent team, he might actually be able to show what he can do at the higher end.
I think in general, maybe Romanians just have something to do with loyalty, man. You know.
Yeah.
It's nothing meant by that at all. By the way, don't worry.
To say, there's someone
We
somewhere
don't-
that's
we-
gonna at
we
you
don't-
after this.
We don't play for Romanian or anything.
Nothing like that. No.
And then Mad Lions as well. I think this roster's actually having quite good success to just drop them. But then I think that doesn't like they're getting dropped to poor performance. That's because
The
the
orders
company-
are
they-
exiting
they lost, like,
CS.
20 mil
yeah,
or something.
they lost like 20 million or something. Yeah, which is
All in on red and
just
it went
unlucky.
black. Yeah, I don't know what
How
happened.
much?
20 million.
How did they spend that much?
no,
It's
no,
not
it
just
wasn't.
CS.
It wasn't CS.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Oh right, okay.
Like all the other teams, but they're not sticking together. You have a
No,
look
which
at all. What's that, Tom?
Which begs questions to like their challenger spot, because does that go down to us and
hello.
ITB, and then we have to play a BO7
Yeah.
at LAN in Serbia? Do you know what I mean? Like,
That's a
so
very good point, actually.
we'll see what happens there. But I would say that they just stay together and play the spot out, like, because
Yeah.
might as well.
Yeah. One thing I was going to say on the whole roster topic as well, while this has been going on and we've been chatting away, I'm not sure if anyone's seen, but Sangal have just replaced a player due to the
What?
RMR visa
okay.
issues.
Right, so it's
Yeah,
not
not like
Oh,
not like a
okay.
permanent replace. No, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't try that hard. Yeah, it's Soulfly sidelined by visa issues, and
Oh, that's
their
disappointing.
coach is going to be standing in Turix.
Oh,
Oh, that's sad.
Tugux.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
sucks. That sucks.
At
'Cause
least
they-
he's an ex-pro.
Yeah, but it's that thing again, man, where you just you're no longer the team. Do you know what I mean? When you lose one of the
Yeah.
guys, it's tough.
That's a shame.
Question time.
That-
You wanna ping it up to that, just because I know you lads have been here for a little while and. didn't
Yeah,
wanna...
I think we'll go through like the actual intelligent ones.
we
First,
can.
rather than-
Yeah, I was gonna say you can add a troll one here and there, but yeah, I think
Okay.
it's a
Alright,
good
well, we'll
shout.
start off. Timo, what's the biggest challenge you've had to face in your careers, and how did you overcome it?
You go first, Tom.
Ooh, biggest challenge getting out of ESEA main. I genuinely believe like once you get out of ESEA main, like you can start propelling up. But like ESEA main seems to be the most hardest thing, like the hardest league to like get out of. Like there's good players, there's bad players, there's okay players, but there's okay players that play with good players. There's professional players, there's semi-professional players, there's open players, there's just everything. Like it's just crazy. It's a crazy league, man. It's crazy times in there. You don't know what you're going to do. Like it's if you get out of there, it's just luck, I think. And then I think winning your first event, I think that is really hard. Like our first event was that epic one, when we beat Alex and Messi. Once you win your first event, like even though if it's online, like it can lead to other things. You get more confident in the roster. You feel more confidence just playing, aiming,
You lose a
calling even
mental
for the
block.
AGL.
The block goes away, and all of a sudden, well, we can win these things.
And like I feel like how did we overcome like getting past our first event was like January was just me, Giraffe, and Extinct staying together. It took us ages. Like we had to stay together as a core for a long time. And like before then, like I stayed with people. Maybe I stayed with someone for like maybe like 5 months, 6 months. Do you mean? But never as long as I had with Extinct and Giraffe. So like by staying together, like you eventually do get that one, and then maybe then you find the right fourth, then you get the right fifth, and then like then it's just then you win the next event and the next event, and like I think having a strong core is always going to lead to like success. So like I think that's like the main thing that made us overcome like our first event.
I think for me, the biggest challenge that I've been a part of was when we won Sigma. we went over there with two stand-ins. Well, virtually one, because obviously Tim had just freshly left the team at that point. But winning that LAN was tough. Like we lost, we didn't expect to lose games in the group stage. We lost to Australia's Talent. It was a bit of an upset. We had to like bounce back from that, like mental. Like we're in a different country. We're we're this is kind of crazy for us. On a stage, like that was the first sort of proper big stage that we'd been on. It's a little bit more impressive than what we'd been on before. And then playing like the two teams we played in the final, which was FTW, who regularly these days can beat us. They're and obviously they did well to get into the HLTV part of Dallas recently. They're in advanced, they're top, and then we played youngsters. That was tough. And best of three, like had to come back in it to just win it. Like that was like the proper first time for me as a coach where like I had to like do stuff I'd never done before for the team. I didn't know that I could do or had to do. So that certainly was like a big achievement, a big obstacle for us. That was probably the big one for me.
Okay. Next one from Cartman's S. Is there anyone you think people should be looking out for in the future, preferably someone that's not already in a top team? I mean, I could already start this off by maybe saying, I mean, do we call Jamie G like an eco, like a top end team? I guess they kind of are. But maybe a Subu as well that was playing with TLR at this event. Do you have any other names?
I was going to ask what context is that in, like in a world stage or just the UK?
UK, I guess, yeah.
UK, then are we allowed to say players that are in advanced, or like is there?
I think below.
Yeah, I think we can. If you want to generalize, maybe you ignore your top dogs from ITB that have had that tier 1 experience. Yeah. But if you want to include like you guys, Eco, and then obviously like everyone below your main teams, your TLRs and everything like that.
I guess I'll use the opportunity to give someone a shout out then. So like I think for me, Gizme is like one of the players to look at going forward from the UK. Like Sky IGL'd in Maine, never IGL'd before. Played brilliant. Now he's not IGL and he's got great stats. Nearly got FPLC or did get FPLC or something like that.
I think the qualities at least.
Like the guy, I've spoken to him. I know he's very clever. He goes about things the right way and he's a good player as well. Like never mind, I think he could be like one of the guys to come out of the UK scene in like very short period of time to go like, whoa, this guy's pretty good.
I think for me, so like Jimmy G for sure. Vault, Extinct in our team. All of our team actually, even our coach. Get him out there. I think Azu, AZU, I think that guy. He's
yeah,
he is really good. I think like he'll be someone like kind of comes up. Like just because we've struggled to play against them like individually, like Moshi and Zimzi, they seem to be quite strong players. Zulu, yeah, it's pretty strong as well. So yeah, there is a few players, but the thing is like these players need to get like the right like spark with the right roster. Do you know what I mean? They have to have the right IGL, the right opper, that right support player, and it's like that's when they can actually
they have to stick together. They have to go through disappointment and like loss, like close loss after close loss of nearly qualifying for this, nearly getting a HLTV run. Once you go through all that loss, you eventually start winning, and if they can get some of these guys together, like and stick together and really work together and get all the right parts, like Tom was saying, they can go and be top, like absolutely 100%.
Yeah, I think one thing I was going to comment on is that I feel like we have so many good pieces to a very confusing UK puzzle, right? I think this is what you said there, right? Is that we have so many talented people. We've just got to wait and see them click. I think there's a lot of young people as well. Like Zimzi, if I'm not mistaken, is 19. I think Azuwu, I think he's quite young as well. Yeah,
he is.
If you want to maybe look at C60 as well, I think he really impressed me as a UK player. I think he's only been in around like Inter's main level, but he did really well when he played with recognized talent at Epic 34. So I think he deserves a bit of a shout out as well. But yeah, I do agree. I think we have this where we were sort of 6 months or maybe a year ago to where we are now. Like we've come leaps and bounds in terms of the talent that we have.
The one thing I would say that I would be scared about is that like I think there is not a lot of oppers in the scene and there's not a lot of IGLs, which is like we kind of came in when Astro and like Brody kind of went out. and then like so then like we like us and Echo, and then do you mean we were around that level? But see, like, so say if we go out then, like, say we don't get an org or whatever it is, and like the next level, like, I don't know where the like next, like, there's not a few IGLs, like, there might be one or two, but like, there's not very strong leaders, and they might grow into that, over time, but like, there's not a lot right now, and then oppers as well. There's not a lot of oppers. Like, there
Yeah.
is people that can say that they op, but like, no one's really putting in the hard work that I can see that like is really shining. I think Azu, I think he is an opera, by the way, but like, I think he needs the experience on a team.
It's all about having the right pieces, and like op and IGL are lacking. There are people, it's like for example, Gizmi was IGL, and he sort of would be one of those guys you could look go. There's a rising player IGL, but he went away from it because he maybe doesn't want to do it or something, which is disappointing because for me that raises his stock value. But maybe I'm wrong, and he knows that he's actually incredible. Like he went and got FPLC, so maybe he doesn't need that to boost his stock value. But it is interesting that there is a lack of like ITLs coming up through the scene where you can go wow. But maybe we're just ignorant. Maybe there is quite
Yeah.
a lot because there's 11 teams in UK teams in main this season. Why couldn't some of these teams get into advanced? All of a sudden we're looking at like maybe there's 5 or 6 teams next season in advanced from UK, right? Like
Yeah.
why not? And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, this guy's in IGL, he's advanced, that's very good. You know, and now we're looking at more, but maybe that's to come. Like hopefully it is as well, because if that does happen, then there's more available pieces to make really solid rosters with young talent. So like I would say that it's looking very good. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're getting close towards another hour mark, so we'll probably just have a couple more questions and then leave it there. Cody Casts asks, who's the team that you've learned the most from in Prague?
Yeah, as for me, it's Chalice. Like, we practiced Chalice on Nook, and like they were doing stuff that we didn't even have to watch the demo back, or like watch our POVs back to see like what was going on, because it was so like they made the game so simple. So like not a lot of decisions had to be made by the individuals, or they didn't have to take many fights that they didn't want to take, or a lot of support. Very simple CS. I mean, they just do X, Y, and Z, and then like we just like it's very hard for us to counter that because we've never seen it before. And then since we've started adopting that now, like we've just went up on Nook, and then, like
Yeah.
I purely put it down because of that game versus them.
Yeah, we were actually struggling on Nuke up to that point. Our Nuke was historically one of our good maps, and then for a period of time it was really poor. Like we were losing to teams who are like, what's going on? Like we should never lose to this team, or like a game's close and we're like, what is happening? And then we did like a couple of days of prac, and then one of the days we got lucky to get Astralis, and we were like, whoa, this is a great opportunity to learn. And I agree with Tom, that is the best prac we've ever got. Like we learned so much, and we were able to just put that in, and our nuke went way up. It was great. So Astralis, thanks.
Good mate Alistair that helped you guys out with a bit of funding for the event. McNoob, big shout out to him again. Asks, what is the biggest annoyance you want to be improved in the UK CS scene?
There's not enough. I mean, this is like very obvious from our point of view, but like, there's not enough investment, I don't think. I mean, I think there's a lot of teams that could potentially be getting quite, lucrative offers. Maybe not a lot of teams, but there's teams that deserve it. And historically we've had that in the UK. We've had lots of teams like willing to pay players to compete, whether it's like somewhat modest or whatever. But recently it's somewhat vanished. Without saying too much, like we used to have multiple orgs at the top level willing to pay multiple teams. Like we used to have XL in the scene, Molotovs and Marshmallows, Reason, London, Fierce. Like it can go on. There's quite a lot, and they're not here anymore. It's disappointing. Maybe the reason they're not here is because during a period of time when the UK wasn't so good, that teams were getting the benefit of like competing in a scene that's weak and sort of taking offers that they're probably not deserving of in the past, and now these organizations feel like they're a bit burnt out, or like there's no value, and I would say that there never has been a time when the UK scene deserves to get investment than right now. I mean, Into the Breach have got it. They're doing fantastic. They're doing stuff that the roster hasn't done before, and like, you know, we could do even better. We think if we had that, or Zako, there's other teams in it that could get into Advanced. Heaven and Hell just got into Advanced. They for example, they have good parts on their team. They could go quite far. That gives me, of course, how I've shouted out. So it would be nice to see a little bit more of that. And to be fair, it's not entirely these organizations' fault. That the government could do a lot to help. The government could make it very easy for betting companies to back teams. So like Paddy Power could get involved, or William Hill, or all of these teams. There are betting companies, they're currently not allowed to. So that there's a lot of money sort of taken away right there. That could get in, that would be interested, obviously. So they're allowed to do that in other countries, but not here. Ireland doesn't have an esports federation, for example. That could be improved. We could get one of those. All of these things, like the UK and Ireland are fairly far behind the rest of the Western world, in my opinion, when it comes to like the infrastructure for esports, especially in Counter-Strike. They're getting better as it goes on, of course, but that could be better. Like they could definitely expedite that. Maybe by the time a new government rolls around, maybe potentially there's a bit of emphasis on supporting UK esports. That would be good.
Yeah. LVN asks, when will Eco beat you on Inferno?
Never.
Never.
Not gonna happen.
Simple as never.
Might get us on Instant though, so keep that up. Keep trying.
Yeah, nice try. Nice try.
Yeah.
16-13. Nice try.
Yeah.
And I think the last question, which will wrap it up, Eden asks a question to biscu. What are his thoughts on WoW players at LAN?
They're genuinely the nicest blokes I've ever met and talked to, man. They're very empathetic. They understand that, you know, we're competing and it's our livelihoods, and that, you know, genuinely nice people. Can't have a bad word against them, you know.
Nice.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. I got one more question for you both. Anything you want to say to anyone that's watching from home right now, live, or for the VODs?
Do you wanna do that one, Tom? I'll do it.
Yeah. I'll do it.
Go ahead.
Please. No, like I mean, there's very talented players in the roster. I mean, there is, like, if you look at Volt, if you look at Extinct, I mean, they're heavy hitters. They're very talented players. Overall as a roster, we're very close. We really are striving to get to that next level, but without the support, it is very hard for us to do so, because people will have to work. And
we
people
really
like,
appreciate all the support. It's like, it means so much to us to see that like so many people want to see us succeed, want to see us get like an organization like that. Really, we didn't really expect that, to be honest. We didn't know that people cared as much as like we did. Like, it's really nice. It's heartwarming, to be honest, and maybe like that's something that can go sort of permeate throughout the scene. You know, maybe we could be more supportive of each other and like hope to see each other succeed, because we don't need others to fail for us to succeed, right? You know, we can all succeed and together in our respective competitions. So that has really meant a lot to us, and hopefully one day we'll get an org and you guys can buy our merch.
Nice. Easy as. At FanbitCS on Twitter for those that are interested. Yes, absolutely. Orgless team doing very, very well right now. Yeah, you'd be silly not to pick these guys up. But thank you very much, gents, for joining us. Thank you, Dweg, as well, for coming on. A longer episode, but I think it goes without saying it's been a very, very interesting one. Make sure to go and follow them. Their socials have been literally running throughout this entire thing. And again, you can follow us on Twitter at Tier2Talk to catch up the latest. I think next Tuesday is the next episode. But until then, as I said, drop us a follow. We do appreciate it. And make sure to check out Fanbit. Until then, guys, thank you very, very much. And have a good night.